Welcome to the Recruiting Roundtable, where we talk to HR and talent acquisition leaders about thoughtful topics in the world of recruiting. For today's discussion, we're going to be talking about a really hot button topic. This is a very popular topic. I had a lot of people want to join this session. We're going to be talking about AI and recruiting. I'm super excited to be joined by three people I know very well. Ankush Seth, founder and CTO of AI Applied. Kris Tierney, VP Human Resources and Learning at Human Resources Professional Association, or HRPA, and Stephen Cawley, Recruitment Lead at Synechron. So as generally, what we always like to do as a tradition here is I'm going to go around the table. Everyone just do a quick introduction of yourself, your role, and just briefly about your company, and we'll get started. So maybe we'll start with Stephen.
So thank you, Sean. Just quickly about myself, I've been in the Montreal recruitment scene for over 10 years now, mainly with startup and e-commerce, but I've recently made the move to the fintech industry in a consulting role. I'm working with a company named Synechron. They are soon to be what I like to call in the top 5 for big consulting firms. They're based out of New York City, and they have offices in over 20 countries with over 44 offices. And they work with some of the big names in the finance industry, like Morgan Stanley or Citibank. And we provide consulting services on a technical level, helping them deliver their tech projects on time and on budget. And we also are currently doing project-based as well. So some companies will give us projects to complete in-house and deliver key in hand. So that's a basic rundown of kind of what we do here at Synechron Montreal. We're new to Montreal, and we're always growing and looking for top talent in the fintech space, and now moving more into the AI ML space as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Stephen. Ankush, how about you go next?
Thanks, Sean. Thanks for the introduction, Stephen, as well. I'm Ankush Seth, founder and CTO of AI Applied. I started this organization with the premise that we feel there's a need to solve or at least assist and help organizations embrace the whole AI journey, right? There's a lot of organizations out there that need help framing the problem statement for how can I leverage AI, right? There's a lot of buzz going on, and it's easy to get caught up in that. But AI Applied is really a consulting firm in the AI and cloud space, helping organizations actually define what it means to them and then build a strategy and then implement and take it forward from there. So we've been on this journey for a little bit, and including in the fintech space, designing loan adjudication systems. It's a great space, and there's lots to be done to make sure that AI is embraced in a responsible and ethical manner. So,
amazing. Thank you, Ankush. And Kris?
Hi, thanks, Sean. And it's great to be here. My name is Kris Tierney. My pronouns are she, her. I'm the Vice President of HR and Learning at the HRPA, the Human Resources Professionals Association. So the HRPA is the professional regulator for the HR profession in the province of Ontario. We are a regulatory association. We have almost 23,000 members. Mostly individual members, HR practitioners, students, executives, and other business leaders as well. I joined the HRPA about 3.5 years ago, so just right at the start of the pandemic. So a good time to make a job change. Prior to that, I spent over 15 years working in high growth, high tech companies and SaaS companies, as well as consumer tech companies and fintech. And that's where I met Sean all those years ago. Mm-hmm. I'm a serial HR professional, serial business leader. It's really interesting to me, the intersection I often say HR and recruitment. I mean, they're inseparable. And now with AI layered in, there's so much to talk about. So I'm really thrilled to be here. Thanks.
Thank you, Kris. And just a fun fact, Kris was at Questrade when I first started my career. I came out of university. That was my first real job, 9 to 5. And Kris was a part of that. So thank you, Kris, for getting my career off to a good start.
Awesome.
Probably, I guess that's 15 years ago or so. I talk a lot to my employees and people I work with about a 30-year relationship. And it's awesome to see kind of it go full circle. We're only halfway through the 30 years, Kris. So we got 15 more years to
Awesome. I look forward to it. It's so exciting. It's thrilling to be here. You keep referring to it as a full circle moment, and it's just thrilling. So thank you for letting me be a small part of your story.
Thank you so much. And lastly, my name is Sean Huynh. I am the CEO of Alchemist Recruiting, and we're on a mission to help companies hire 50% faster and reduce agency spend by 80% by offering unlimited hires for a flat monthly fee. All right. So let's start by talking first about automated candidate sourcing. So this is the problem I probably know better than a lot of people, more than I'd like to admit. Candidate sourcing is a very time-intensive, challenging job. You spend hours looking at hundreds, if not thousands, of LinkedIn profiles and resumes to try to find the right candidates to, if you're an agency like myself, to send to your clients, or if you're in-house, to send to your hiring manager. There are a number of automated tools out there where you can leverage AI to scan large databases of resumes or LinkedIn profiles and identify potential candidates who might match your specific job requirements. Some to come to mind are, there's Seek Out, there's HireFlow, there's dozens of them, and there are new ones popping up every day. I'd love to get feedback on if any of you have tried these tools or what your feeling is on these tools. Do you feel that they give you the quality and they provide the nuance that you're looking for when you're looking at a profile, or, does still the old school, like reading the profile yourself, is that kind of like what needs to happen? Maybe we'll start with Stephen. Stephen, what are your thoughts on this?
So I'm not currently using specific AI tools for sourcing. I have a recruitment engine on my team. So we have human sourcers at my disposal. So that's always nice. One of the tools we do have at our disposal, those in LinkedIn Recruit, you can basically write those reach out messages to candidates. So you can, quickly just let LinkedIn send those automated messages based on the job role in the candidate's profile. It'll populate the InMail to them. For people that I know this is a recruiting podcast, but if you're just not familiar with an InMail, that is the first contact with a candidate. It's kind of like your pitch to them. Now, I was playing around with it, and for me, receiving them myself, you can kind of tell right away when it's an AI generated message. And I find I get a much better response rate when the candidate knows that I'm an actual person, even if it is just a template I'm using. Trying to avoid the kind of generic AI generated messages where it's like, oh, make sure to mention the job that they're in, make sure to mention their first name, and adding maybe a little humor to it. I find adding that personalized touch helps a lot when sourcing candidates. So I'm not sure it's there yet. And like, even if it gets to a point where, it can start randomizing the messages a little bit more, or making them a little, having a bit more personal touches, you don't know what you're sending either to these people at that point in larger volume. So I still think it's very important, especially for more senior roles, to really kind of give that personal touch. For more entry-level positions, I don't see kind of an issue to that, because most people with entry level are just happy to have any company reach out to them, as opposed to them having to do countless applications. So that's my thoughts on it.
Okay, great. Well, maybe Kris, you work with a number of HR professionals. Let's stay on this topic where you're automating your outreach and maybe your message to candidates. How do you feel about that? Do you think there's it compromises the authenticity of the candidate experience?
That well, the last part of your question there, I think, is really the key, and I think I say we meaning, you know, all of us who have some exposure, and I'm certainly not the AI or the tech expert on the discussion or at the roundtable today, but I can tell you that we get very excited at the potential of automation, the potential of AI, and maybe sometimes leap quickly and then have to pull ourselves back. And what we're starting to see now with the pullback is that you can't fully replace the human touch and the authenticity, to use that word, Sean. I think it's a great word. I think authentic was the word of the year for the year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, it was.
Yeah, but AI can't replace that, and technology can't replace that. So you can leverage the technology to help the processing of data move faster, and you can obviously process, vast quality or quantity of data much faster, but you still have to have that human interaction. That the humans have to be part of the process, including at the sourcing stage. So you can't just fully rely on your tech to do all of those initial sourcing and that initial outreach. You need that human element, because I think people are smarter too, and we're more skeptical. To Stephen's point, we see something hit our inbox. I'm just, thinking from the candidate experience point of view. You see something hit your inbox and you immediately think, is this a human or is this a bot or some sort of automation? And so I think we, as recruiters, we have a better opportunity of really engaging that applicant or that prospective candidate if they know and believe that it's a human behind that initial outreach. So I'll stop there.
It's an interesting point. I've thought about this a lot. So I get prospecting emails from salespeople or business development reps that want to sell whatever, some software or service. And when I know it's a bot, at first I used to be like a little bit annoyed. I'm like, oh, I know it's automation. But now I'm thinking, like, does it matter? Right? Like, does it matter that it's automated? Like, they're just being more efficient with their time. I don't know. Like, maybe my ego says, no, I want you to send me a personal message that you wrote and typed out yourself. But like, at the end of the day, if you have a product or service that I need, does it really matter that you sent it to me through like a bot or something like that?
It really interesting. And I think the answer is it depends. Because I think if you are a true prospective customer or consumer, or you're interested in what is being sold, then you can be very forgiving if it's a bot. But I can tell you it's super annoying if you get a tech generated message and you're not really in the right client base. Like, it's not really a product for you. And I get those all the time. I get them through LinkedIn all the time, messages, or they're trying to sell me something based on my work experience perhaps, but it's something that I did 10 years ago. I'm not in that space anymore. So anyway, so I think it really depends. I think there is, to your point, Sean, there is really strong utility for the tools, but at the same time, the humans still need to intervene and say, is this am I sending this to the right audience where it's going to resonate with them?
That's a good point. Ankush, let's get you in the conversation. So we've touched on a couple of things now, which is when you're writing automated messages using AI, is it accurate? To Kris's point, maybe it read something that she did 10 years ago, but that's not really relevant to her role now. From an engineering standpoint, Ankush, what are you seeing with AI that's either helping make the messaging more accurate or making the models more accurate, or will we always need kind of human oversight in these types of things?
Yeah, I think first off, especially in recruiting, we are talking about people, so we can't eliminate humans from the equation, right? So I think all the points surfaced so far are bang on in terms of there needs to be some human touch and part of the process for sure, right? So the technology is there to make us more efficient, enhance perhaps the experience, but not replace, right? So those are key words here. In terms of the evolution, right, GPT and all of that, that's gaining a lot of traction these days. Again, right now they're at that stage where they are more of a supplementary tool, right? And they need to be used with context in mind. Over a period of time, I think, of course, the models are going to become smarter and more context aware themselves. So that message would probably be more tailored and meet your persona, right? If you are sending it out, how does Ankush write an email versus someone else, right? That might make a difference at a point in time, but of course, right now we're not there yet.
Yeah, I've said a lot to my recruitment team in the past is, recruiters are really salespeople dressed as recruiters, right? And I think you can't completely automate an entire sales process. To your point, Ankush, like sales is about people. It's people interacting with people, right? So I think you make a really good point there. Maybe we'll stay with you, Ankush, on this. Talking about the enhanced kind of candidate experience on basic screening and parsing of a resume. Okay, I think we've all had some experience or exposure to an ATS system that will parse a resume. What are your thoughts on it? Like, in my opinion, there's a lot of nuance when looking at a resume or a profile, right? How recent is the job experience? Like, maybe they worked in a certain tech stack, and they have 10 years experience, but they haven't worked in that tech stack for the last 4 or 5 years. Ankush, what are your thoughts on kind of resume parsing and how advanced it's gotten, how it's and how it's performing in today's day and age?
Well, compared to the previous systems of the last decade, if you will, right? AI-based can be more, again, context aware, right? They can take these nuances into account, right? And if the models are, let's talk about engineering, right? If the models are trained to parse specifically engineering or software technology roles, for example, they can make that leap in terms of relationship. Okay, you're talking about JavaScript versus Java, two different languages, and the profiles potentially are different in terms of you might be writing something for the back end versus the front end, things like that, right? So those nuances can be captured. So there is obviously some benefit to leveraging AI-based sourcing systems to parse large volumes of data, right? Now the question is which features out of those resumes, for example, or profiles do you really care about? And that's where the tuning part of models and things come into play, right? The other area is no matter how much we try as humans, there might be some subconscious bias, right, in terms of how we think a profile needs to look, right? But AI can be more objective. But there's the flip side too, and some of you might have heard a very large retailer had issues with their ATS system that leveraged AI, and it was biased in a certain way, right? So it can go wrong as well. So there is a fine balance to be struck there. So
I'm going to kick it to Stephen. Stephen, I'm assuming some ATS systems you've used in the past had some element of resume parsing. Is that a fair assumption?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, how did you think they performed?
So there's one larger one that I'm sure everyone has come across, whether applying to a job or working with directly, that I'm not going to name, but it's always been a struggle parsing the resumes and not getting the correct end dates for specific positions, and just causing those 10 to 30 seconds out of your day for each candidate that drives you crazy, putting in that information. And then at the end of the day, we're still just looking at the resume, usually pretty quickly anyways. Is it necessary to capture all that data out of there? It would be nice, especially when you want to put it into larger databases and get the skill sets. But when it comes to trying to hire someone and trying to put that data into the system, it's still nowhere near close to where it needs to be to make high volume recruitment efficient. So there's still a lot of struggle there, and the concept is brilliant, but it's still not being from the tools that I use, it's still not being executed where it needs to be to really kind of have people want to use the tools and rely exclusively on those tools. So that's kind of that's kind of my take on it at the moment. Ideally, like being able to just put a resume in, get the email address, get the name, get the location. That's for me right there is good enough to start. But then once you start taking the experience, it seems like most systems still struggle quite a bit just to figure out starting dates, ending dates, the amount of experience they have on certain technologies.
Mm-hmm.
And then it creates double the work for you.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's where I'm at, and I'm struggling with this right now. I'm trying to make my team as efficient as possible to get that data and be able to come back, look for people with certain skill sets and experience that we've already talked to that might have not been successful in one process, and then trying to move them to another. But then it always comes back down to just checking their CV really quickly. So
yeah,
until either people standardize their resumes in a format that everyone agrees on, so that the parsing can do its job, or the AI ML really becomes that advanced where it can figure those things out. I think that's when we'll finally be able to parse resumes with confidence.
You bring up a great point. Data integrity is such a thing when it comes to any like ATS or CRM system. We've used a number of different systems.
I'd like to just add something here to any candidate. Sure. Please do not put your name in capital letters. Anything that bothers me more than having to retype the person's name in smaller case letters to put into the system. And even when it gets parsed, then it's still in capital letters. So yes, you're an important person. You should be all caps. I agree, but you can put bigger font size as opposed to caps.
AI should be able to solve that. I think it seems like a pretty easy fix. Kris, what are your thoughts on resume parsing and kind of like the effectiveness or ineffectiveness of the technology?
Yeah, I think as not a professional recruiter, so not somebody who's using that tool like every day, like Stephen is, and can really speak to some of those pain points. I think I would take a page out of some of what Ankush was saying in terms of the bias. And I think we just have to be careful about how we use the technology, and just like garbage in, garbage out. When we talk about data, it's bias in, bias out when we talk about using our technology to even parse resumes through the database. So we need to be careful of that. And what I continuously am hearing from the other members of the roundtable today is that human intervention is still needed, and that we can't solely rely on the technology. So I think even just planning for that and being prepared for that and building that into our processes as recruiters is wise, to validate what we're getting out of the technology, and using some of those tools is actually effective and useful in terms of our work and moving forward with our, whether it's high volume recruitment or particularly tough to find skills or whatever the case may be. So yeah, that's probably as much as I can say on parsing resumes.
So Ankush, I'm curious of your take on that, just from an engineering lens. Why do you think these ATS systems? Because I agree 100% with Stephen. Right, I'm using an ATS system. I'm not going to name them either. The parsing is so-so, right? Sometimes they can't get the education right. Sometimes they can't get the start dates correct. Sometimes they provide you like it tags a bunch of keywords that are on the profile, and like sometimes they're like wildly inaccurate. Like I look at the resume and I'm like, I don't know how you could have took this keyword out of this. Of all the words that are on this resume, I can't believe you chose these 10, because there are at least 12 others that are more relevant. So why do you think, from a technology perspective, these ATS systems, resume parsers, struggle so badly?
Well, a lot of them are still rules-based, right? They're not truly leveraging machine learning and AI capabilities, especially transformers or CNNs or other types of technologies, in terms of getting the context and sentiment and everything else combined together to represent this person. Who is this person, right? That's really what you're trying to answer from a resume, right? Get a 360 snapshot, if you will, of this person. The ADS of the past, or even current generation ADS, a lot of them are a mix of AI and rules-based parsing systems, right? So that parsing eventually will transition over to more, hey, let the format be the format, right? Because I don't think we can get the whole planet to agree to a format, right? Or even everything needs to be a Word document versus a PDF. So many different things can happen, right? So it will be about understanding context, and then actually almost having a specific model to parse and understand what resumes represent, right? I think that representation needs to be decided and determined from a model perspective, that we're talking about building a profile from this resume, right? And what are the features that define that profile? I think that's where some work probably is happening in the background within these organizations, some of the large ones. So I don't think it'll be too long before we see the next gen of parsers. So.
I just to jump in very quickly as well, because something came to mind for me too. And I think in our role recruiting, we are very goal driven. Like we want the best candidates out of our ATS, whereas the technology isn't. And to Ankush's point, it's just satisfying a set of rules that we've programmed into it. So it really, it's the garbage in, garbage out, and the technology is going to perform as well as the training data that we give it. So if we don't train it well, it's not going to perform well based on our objectives, but we're more goal driven in terms of what we're doing. The technology is not necessarily goal driven. So that was just something that popped in.
And the one thing, great point, Kris, there. I think there's an advantage with at least the future generation of parsers, once they do come out, right, would be around being able to apply some amount of predictive analytics and analysis on a person's profile and determine, hey, this person did X and they acquired N number of skills, but those are transferable skills. So there may not be a direct fit from a resume perspective, but their experience lends them well to a particular role, right? And that kind of analytics, if you can present, right, to the recruiters, that might even help open doors for a number of candidates who might be great at their jobs. It's just that they don't have specific experience listed on the resume, but they have skills embedded all over their work experience.
Stephen, do you have something to add?
Yeah, let's see, we're kind of running, like, we're looking at like a 30-minute time frame here, and most of our conversation has been, well, on my end anyways, has been kind of critical or negative of AI. I'd like to kind of just flip the script here and talk about how AI has been helping us and Synechron actually help the candidate experience and make our lives easier.
Let's do that. I'd love that.
So one of the things Synechron offers all of its employees is Nexus Chat, which is basically a ChatGTP wrapper. So we can securely use ChatGTP 4 or 3.5, depending on, I guess, what our needs are. But use it for any business-based use, and it greatly increases our productivity. So having the ability to safely use ChatGTP as a recruiter is like priceless. So whether it's building up job ads very quickly, helping with translations, helping with replying to candidates, coming up with templates for certain stages in the recruitment process, all these things are just facilitated so easily with AI. And it's just really kind of help bring that recruitment experience to the next level for the candidate. Of course, I'm not just copy and pasting directly, but just to kind of get those templates, get those guidelines, also trying to understand technology, different tech as well. Tech is moving so quickly. Having having someone you can chat with to kind of explain different tech environments and tech stacks and get insights into different tech markets. All these things are done now so much more quickly through AI.
Yeah. So you have a, just so I understand correctly, this is your internal recruiters are using this Chat GPT bot that's helping them as they, do their day to day.
So everyone in the company has access to it.
Okay.
And basically it's basically Chat GTP, but in a more controlled environment. So like our data is more secure, and like, it's limited in some of, like, if you're trying to use it for personal use, and some of the functions aren't available. Like, for example, like if I wanted to make, like, ask it for a picture of the cutest puppy in the world, it's not going to generate me a picture,
okay,
picture of that. But most of the other features are there.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, thanks for sharing. And I appreciate it. You were right. We were kind of like bashing AI a little bit, which we shouldn't have been. Let's maybe go to Kris. Kris, is there an application of AI that HRPA is using today, or maybe you've talked to others that they're seeing a lot of value, or if not, where do you see potentially the most value in AI moving forward?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think in the world of HR and the profession of HR, really recruitment is where we're seeing AI and automation being leveraged the most. There's still a little bit of hesitation in terms of wider spread adoption and utilization of the tool into other areas of HR practice, simply because we still kind of don't know what we don't know about it. And it's that, don't want to move too fast because there are obviously risks, and I'm not going to go flip the script back onto that side. But what I can say is, and when we think about candidate experience, even, I think there's fantastic utility for technology and automation and AI, even some of the things that Stephen was describing in terms of creating job postings or doing some initial writing, and then the humans come in and maybe can edit it a little bit. But I think things like scheduling, or just the keeping candidates engaged throughout the process, absolutely we can use automation. And I don't think that degrades the experience for the candidates either, because I think knowing that they're still part of the process, and even if it's an automated message or an automated touch point, it gives them that sense of comfort and awareness. Oh, okay, I'm still part of the process. I still know where the status of my candidacy is. And so from the experiential point of view, from the candidate's point of view, I don't think there's any degradation there. And I think that's probably one of the strongest utility points that we're seeing right now, or use cases that we're seeing right now for automation and AI in the world of HR. It's really heavily focused in recruitment.
That's a great point. Thanks for sharing that. And I guess we'll wrap up with Ankush. What are your thoughts? Where do you see the biggest opportunity for AI in recruitment?
Well, for the current time being, I would say AI-based assistant bots, right? Something that Stephen was talking about. Kris, you also kind of briefly touched upon it, right? Those tools, and like you said at the top of the hour, right? They're here to assist and make us more efficient, right? And once they're playing in that space, and they're very good at it, right? Another area which I kind of touched upon was dynamic skill matching, right? Adaptability of a candidate to different kinds of roles, and facilitating that bit is where I think these models can really add value, as well as predictive analytics, right? Making data-driven decisions. I think that's what we really want to do here, and that's the strength of AI algorithms.
Thanks, Ankush. And so I guess in closing, my biggest opportunity is, I think, on the sourcing piece. As someone who's run an agency and continues to run an agency, going through thousands and thousands of profiles, if AI gets good enough where it could deliver really, really strong profiles based on the job requirements and is really fine-tuned to doing that, and to Stephen's earlier point, can write a really engaging first touch message to the candidate to get them to respond. I think if it just handled that much, literally it would provide, that's 80% of our job as recruitment agencies. So if there's tools out there that could do that really well, you would make us extremely more efficient. And to Kris's point, my recruiters can spend more time actually talking to candidates and building that relationship, because I think that one-to-one communication and how you sell the opportunity to the candidate still needs to happen. And I don't think I would never trust that to a AI or a bot to do. I think that's a human kind of conversation. But I'm really, really optimistic about that piece. So hopefully there are companies that are doing that. And, as I find out more, I will let you know. Kris, Ankush, Stephen, I really appreciate all of you for coming today. It's great to see you all. And thank you for your insights.
Thank you so much, Sean. It was a real joy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Till next time.
Bye.
Have a good day.